people on the right who have now declared that they are the leaders of MAGA, not Donald Trump, actually. It turns out that they are the great leaders of America First and MAGA. So Tucker Carlson put out a statement on Friday in his newsletter in which he suggested that the United States was, quote, complicit, not the United States, Donald Trump was complicit in Israel's, quote unquote, act of war. The title of the newsletter was, "This could be the final newsletter before all-out war," in which he suggested basically World War III was going to break out. The newsletter says, while the American military may not have physically perpetrated the assault, years of funding and sending weapons to Israel, which Donald Trump just bragged about on Truth Social, undeniably placed the U.S. at the center of last night's events. Washington knew these attacks would happen. They aided Israel in carrying them out. Politicians purporting to be America First can't now credibly turn around and say they had nothing to do with it. Our country is in deep. So Donald Trump is purporting to be America First. Only Tucker Carlson, who tours Moscow supermarkets to talk about how good the bread is and how he wishes that our subway system ran just like Moscow's. Only Tucker Carlson, who does interviews with the leadership of Qatar and talks about how they are an amazing ally to the United States while they simultaneously support Hamas. Only Tucker Carlson, who hosts people like Daryl Cooper, the greatest and most honest historian in America, according to Tucker Carlson, who over the weekend suggested that America should launch missiles against Tel Aviv. Only Tucker Carlson is truly America First, not Donald Trump. Not Donald Trump, who built the America First movement, who built MAGA. Only Tucker Carlson and his friends are truly MAGA and America First. And then Tucker over the weekend doubled down on this. He said, the real divide isn't between people who support Israel and people who support Iran or the Palestinians. The real divide is between those who casually encourage violence and those who seek to prevent it, between warmongers and peacemakers. Again, this is Tucker's shtick, is that anyone who opposes him is a warmonger who wants more war and just loves war, loves. Okay, please. Who are the people who love war, just desperately want war? So he actually says, who are the warmongers? They would include anyone who's calling Donald Trump today to demand airstrikes and other direct U.S. military involvement in war with Iran. On that list, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, Ike Perlmutter, and Miriam Adelson. At some point, they will all have to answer for this, but you should know their names now. So first of all, I'm not aware that any of those people are directly calling Donald Trump and saying that he must directly intervene in this current conflict. Second of all, his suggestion that you're a warmonger if you want the Iranian nuclear program to end, then I guess Donald Trump is a warmonger because Donald Trump wants the nuclear program to end. And you know who said that? Donald Trump. Because you know who the actual leader of MAGA is? Donald Trump. He created MAGA. It is Donald Trump who created the America First movement. It is not Tucker Carlson. And it is not Marjorie Taylor Greene, who similarly put out a tweet saying, quote, everyone is finding out who are the real America First MAGA and who are fake, and just said it because it was popular. So I guess that Donald Trump is not the real America First MAGA. Only Marjorie Taylor Greene, an obscure congresswoman from Georgia until Donald Trump tapped her on the head, is the real America First MAGA. She says anyone slobbering for the U.S. to become fully involved in the Israel-Iran war is not America First MAGA. Who are the people who are slobbering for the U.S. to become, quote unquote, fully involved? Literally no one has called for a ground invasion of Iran. No one. No one has suggested that the United States ought to be fully involved in a gigantic takeover of Iran, a regime rebuild. No one is calling for that. Even if you're calling for a single airstrike on Fordo, you know what that looks a lot like? It looks like a single airstrike on Qasem Soleimani, which President Trump did in 2020 and was ripped by people like Tucker Carlson, who said that it was going to turn into a regional war. Here's my big question for folks like Tucker. When he suggests that there are these people who are calling Donald Trump and demanding he do things, who does he think is the decision maker? The decision maker in the White House is Donald J. Trump. Donald Trump has taken the same position on the Iranian nuclear program since literally the first minute he came down the golden escalator. He has not changed, not one iota. Does Tucker really think that Donald Trump is so manipulable that he gets a call from Ike Perlmutter and suddenly he changes his entire perspective on the Middle East? What a low opinion Tucker Carlson must have of Donald Trump's capacities, that he thinks that he can manipulate him from the outside, or that others are manipulating him in that particular way. By the way, President Trump fired back at all of this over the weekend. He did an interview with The Atlantic, and he was asked about whether the move runs counter to America First. And Trump said, well, considering I'm the one that developed America First, and considering that the term wasn't used until I came along, I think I'm the one that decides that. Yes. For those people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. See, this is what not stupid people say, right? Because President Trump is a not stupid person. But the people who are attacking him today, have predicted that BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, in economic union, they're going to get involved in this in some form or fashion. That's what those people say. President Trump is not one of those people because he's not a stupid person. Quote, so for all of those wonderful people who don't want anything to do about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that's not peace. Correct. And nothing has changed. He's been saying that the entire time. The entire time he's been saying that. The President of the United States. So, again, all the isolationists who are horseshoeing around and having fun, happy times with all of their friends on the left, retweeting each other. We should just note who those people are and what they actually believe about the President of the United States, about America First, about MAGA, and their complete acquiescence to the idea that a nuclear Iran seems to be fine for the world. An asinine notion rejected by anyone with half a brain. Right now, things are very, very hot between Israel and Iran. Iran has been firing bevies of missiles into the center of Israel directed directly at civilian areas. Families across Israel are right now living in their safe rooms. Literally, like I have friends who literally are living in their safe rooms right now. Israel's Operation Rising Lion has been highly successful. It doesn't mean that people in Israel are not suffering. Of course they are. And this is where the IFCJ comes in. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is on the ground, delivering life-saving aid where it is needed most. IFCJ provides emergency food, shelter, trauma support, and security upgrades, including bomb shelters and fortified hospital units. In the past year alone, IFCJ has helped over 2 million people, supplying basic needs to the elderly, Holocaust survivors, new immigrants, and children traumatized by war. As Israel's defenders stand ready, IFCJ stands with them, funding bulletproof ambulances, supporting first responders, offering comfort to those in line of fire. Your support means food for the hungry, safety for the vulnerable, hope for a nation under siege. Now, as the world watches and uncertainty grows, you can make a difference through donations. Together, we can bring light to the darkest moments. Visit benforthefellowship.org to donate today. That's one word, benforthefellowship.org to donate. Okay, joining us on the line to discuss all of this and more, Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas. So, Senator Cotton, one of the things that has been kind of apparent and shocking is how many people on the sort of isolationist right have been railing against the president's position on this, directly attacking the president on his position on this. Their suggestion, of course, is that this was going to turn into a full-scale regional conflagration in which all sorts of parties were going to be drawn in. So far, that appears not even to be remotely the case. Essentially, it appears that the Ayatollah actually called up Vladimir Putin and asked him if there was a way out of this. And Vladimir Putin, after talking to President Trump, went back to the Ayatollah and said, no, you're going to have to actually negotiate or you're in serious trouble right here. There don't seem to be a lot of forces coming to Iran's defense here, Iran's support. The only sources that I see that are coming to any sort of material defense of Iran, really the Chinese flying in some resupplied parts, it appears, for ballistic missile development from the East. That appears to be the only intelligence that I've seen suggesting any level of outside support for anything that Iran is doing. Otherwise, Iran is totally isolated and their skies are naked.
Yeah, Iran is totally exposed because Israel has suppressed all their enemy air defenses. On the domestic political front, Ben, you would expect to see Democrats criticizing President Trump, as they have. It's disappointing to see some self-appointed so-called MAGA influencers criticizing him, saying that he is violating his own America First foreign policy or he's betraying the MAGA movement. I mean, remember what President Trump said in the Atlantic interview over the weekend. He's the one that created the MAGA movement. He defined the America First foreign policy. So-called influencers who don't have any responsibility or accountability to the American people through their votes in our constitutional system, yet want authority over policy, are trying to police the boundaries of the president's own movement and the president's own foreign policy. And as he said in that Atlantic interview, they say they want peace. You can't have peace with a nuclear Iran. You just can't have a peaceful world if Iran is enriching uranium and working on the weaponization of a warhead and preparing to get nuclear weapons. Again, we've seen over the weekend, they're willing, without nuclear weapons, not just to terrorize America, but also to fire ballistic missiles into civilian neighborhoods. So I think the president has played this just right. He is supporting Israel all the way. He's warning Iran not to harm a single American, especially our troops in the Gulf. And we'll see, again, what the Ayatollahs are willing to do now that they understand that Israel and America mean business.
Between President Trump and the Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel, essentially they ended not just Qasem Soleimani, but also Qasem Soleimani's dream. So the president, of course, authorized the killing of Qasem Soleimani, who is the leader of the terrorist arm of the IRGC. Back in 2019, Soleimani had essentially said publicly that he had created an entire ring of fire around Israel that was going to make it impossible for anyone to ever target the Iranian regime. He name-checked Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, terrorist groups in Iraq, the Syrian regime, and pretty much all of those groups have now been defenestrated and left completely prone by the Israelis with American material support. And that's thanks to President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu. The world has changed. And, the outcome of what is happening right now, if the president should have earned the Nobel Prize for the Abraham Accords, I don't think there's any doubt that given his support right now and given the changing face of the Middle East and also what could come next after this, I think people are neglecting the fact that once there is some sort of either agreement cut with the Iranians to denuclearize or the Iranian regime is forced to denuclearize, it's going to completely change the region. I mean, the Abraham Accords is just going to be the beginning.
Yeah, without question, Ben. And the strike on Qasem Soleimani is a good example of how you deliver peace through strength. Some of the same voices now who are saying that, this conflict is going to create World War III, were also predicting World War III back in 2020 when President Trump ordered the strike that killed Iran's terrorist mastermind. Yet we didn't have World War III. We had an Iran that was chastened and pulled in its horns. Those voices right now are making preposterous claims like somehow the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are going to rush into Iran's aid and we're going to see World War III. Does anyone really take seriously the idea that Brazil and India and South Africa is going to come to Iran's aid? And as you said earlier, Russia has already refused to. Ben, just like Russia refused to come to the aid of its longtime client, Bashar al-Assad, last fall in Syria. They told him he was on his own, and he was on his own on a flight to Russia just a few days later. So when push comes to shove, once again, the strong horse in the world, especially in the Middle East, is the United States and Israel.
That's Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Senator, thanks so much for your time and your insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben.
Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to check out all of the other great content on my channel. I'll see you here next time.